Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to PvMer Spotlight. Today we have a very special guest. We're not only joined with someone who is experienced in the vast space of RuneScape Ultimate Ironman gaming and speedrunning, but we're also with someone who is very well known in the Pokemon speedrunning scene. You might have seen him from SGDQ, commentating from time to time, but we are joined here today with the one and only Mr. Shen Shenanagans.
Hello there, welcome everyone. Hope you enjoy the little commentary we have here. And yeah, for the GDQ, you can see me live. I'll have Crystal co-op key item rando with my good buddy Chris. We're running at the upcoming AGDQ, so it'll be a lot of fun.
All right, Mr. Shen, would you like to give a brief introduction of how you got into RuneScape as well as the end game?
Well, as far as getting into RuneScape, I was pretty much like most of us. I was probably about 12 years old, maybe 11 years old, somewhere in that range. And one of my friends told me about this cool game they found on, I think it was Miniclip was the name of the website.
Yeah.
I can't really remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. Okay, yeah. So hopped on there, been really just playing ever since. Took some breaks, obviously, here and there for some years, but yeah, pretty much just been playing RuneScape since the beginning. And as far as old school is concerned, as soon as it was announced, I was pretty hyped for it. Got in right away, and then when Iron Man came out, I didn't start the UIM right away, but I found the mode a little bit more interesting. So I made the UIM maybe like a year or two after Iron Man had come out, and been doing that ever since.
All right, so let's quickly talk about the cock speedrunning days, because I remember at one point you held a couple of Chambers records. So just give me a brief introduction how you got into that and what you enjoyed about cock speedrunning.
Yeah, sure. Well, Chambers is probably kind of how I got like my start into more of like the PvM side of stuff. I kind of started out with like We Do raids and that sort of thing. That's I know where we met was through We Do raids.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I got in with that for a while. Was like teaching raids on there, and then eventually just started to get interested in like speedrunning raids. A little bit of solos, not a ton, but a lot of the team stuff because I found the teams like pretty interesting. And I know I was on, I think maybe like one or two of the records. We had like a mid 10-minute run and then like a really low 10-minute run, and we were thinking about pushing for sub 10, but at the time like the gear wasn't super free for it, and then also it was like a pretty challenging run like logistically trying to get all the people together and whatnot. I think you were on at least a couple of those teams.
That was around the time I think Hato introduced me to like one or two runs, but I kind of sat back from doing any more just because of performance anxiety. Because
Gotcha.
I had the Zuck nerves, and I was like, I didn't want to keep going. I know if I kept sending runs, I probably would have gotten more comfortable, but it was just, I was with a bunch of people I didn't know. I knew a few people, but at the same time, it was just like, I didn't feel too comfortable, so I just stepped away from that.
Gotcha, yeah. I know, I didn't see myself as, like, the best PvMer by any means, but, I know, like, back then, it was kind of like a more of like a, do you have max gear? If yes, you can be on the team sort of deal. Nowadays, it's like very much like a skill check where you have to be like legitimately good at the game to be on these like world record speedrun teams. Like they're all like super cracked at the game.
Yeah, it's down to like tick perfection and execution and all the small stuff like crab room, potion procedure, room procedure for the puzzles, and just all that general stuff.
Yeah, I really do like the solving of everything and like coming up with all the strategies. Like in this situation, you need to like do exactly this. It's really cool seeing like the optimization for a lot of this stuff, especially like Chambers, because it's for the challenge modes at least, it's such a huge scale. Like it's such a long raid and everything, and there's just so much that can change.
And challenge mode has changed so much over the years, because I remember when we potted it like near release and it was just super bad, and now it's just like it went down from like 30 minutes all the way down to like sub 20. But obviously there's changing gear, but also the strats have changed and the rooms have mechanically changed after all the quality of life changes that Jagex is at.
Yeah, like even going off that as well. Remember how we used to have like Shig and like the level 3s join so we could
Yep.
scale down the raids? Yeah, those were good times. I love that.
I spoke
Oh,
about that in my one video talking about the count that would be the speedrun meta. Obviously,
yeah,
no
yeah.
one is doing it because you have to
Oh, it'd be
have a bunch of
crazy.
people make those accounts. So it's like if anyone actually, like a group of people actually pot that shit, a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of low level accounts. I'm telling them right now, they will cop the wreck. It will probably take a couple runs,
Yeah.
but they can easily shave off a little bit of time in Vasa and Tecton, etc., etc. So
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, I don't even know what you would want to build because it's like you obviously need 99 strength. You need like the attack and the defense to wear all the best in slot gear. You need, I don't even know if you need like augury, so maybe like 74, 77 prayer somewhere in there, and then just like at that point, you figure out like what attack is viable.
well,
Because if you're BGSing, you don't really need the attack, maybe.
in big teams, I'm thinking you could probably rock 90 and be fine. Just because
Yeah,
of
something like
defense
that.
running low. So probably running 90 would be fine. But in smaller teams, if you try to run this build in a solo, then you'll need 99.
Right, yeah, that's fair. Solo would be a lot different because you don't get the guaranteed 0 on everything that you get in teams. Yeah, that's a really cool idea.
Okay, so I don't think I wrote this question down, but we did have the Cox change block like pop up recently. So since we're still on the
Oh
topic of
yeah,
chambers, you want to talk about that a bit? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
yeah, sure. I read through it. I kind of like most of the changes. I feel like some of it doesn't like necessarily address the issues. Like I think with Mudadial, like it's still gonna murder everyone. The way that I like read some of their changes, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I feel like some of it's pretty good, especially for like solos. As far as the UIM is concerned, because I know that's kind of like the side story of this, having stackable logs from Ice Demon. Oh my god, that's like the craziest thing ever. Back when I started doing CM like really early on the UIM, I think I was maybe the first person getting KC, but no one else was doing CM at the time because it was you couldn't find teams because no one would take a UIM. But on top of that, doing solos was like borderline viable. And Ice Demon was like such a wall because you would chop one log at a time, and if you didn't put in like 20 at once, it wouldn't like give you any effect. So you had to like find a way to get 20 inventory slots. So I'd be dropping like my Armadillo, I'd be dropping like my Ancestral just to like get the logs needed to put it into the
Oh my gosh.
into the thing.
That sounds so
And
anxiety inducing. What if you DC?
yeah, exactly. It was like so scary every time, but it was like required because like you need the inventory space, and there's really just no other way to do it. They eventually made a change to where you'd get more kindling from Ice Demon, and that made it a lot easier. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's like very very early CMs. I remember just Ice Demon being such an anxiety room just because of the dropping all the items on the ground.
Yeah, I didn't even consider the fact that having it being stackable would be just such a huge buff for ultimates. I just thought about like viability for mains because it's already gonna
Yeah,
make it
yeah,
where you just pick up your action tender box and you just instantly start chopping instead of hitting the chest, banking your stuff, and then chopping. So that's
yeah.
already gonna speed up the room a bit. Same with
For
thieving.
mains, yeah, I think for mains it saves like what 2 ticks maybe because you just insta bank on mains nowadays.
Yeah.
But for UIM, like we would have to like run in, drop like whatever we could possibly decide to drop, and then have like 12 maybe inventory space, cut like 10 logs, and just do that like 7 or 8 times. It was really slow, but this is a huge buff for us.
Lots of Jagex.
Yeah, for
Buffing your
sure.
ultimates.
Yeah, thieving as well, because that's another really annoying room because you'd always have to like drop all your potions and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so you did mention Metadown saying that the changes might not really alleviate too much. In the sense of solos, you are 100% correct. I'm pretty sure you're still going to be cutting down the terrain solos. But
Mm-hmm.
in teams, now you could probably sit on the south wall, assuming that since there's no immunity, you could just straight up kill it. So the plan of action would just be freeze Mutadile, hug south wall, kill small mutt, and then pull up when the HP is kind of low to reduce the projectile distance. And doing it like
Ah,
that means you don't take any damage from Mama Mutt. So that room becomes like a lot less damage.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
but now it's like you have to bring a ZGS to freeze Mama Mud. I was thinking about some ways to
Oh yeah.
potentially not have to freeze it, because assuming that they don't completely rework the room, and there's that one tick
Hmm.
you hit Mudodial on, that it'll like walk and then stop. So like it's gonna walk to
Yeah.
the Dimitri and then it stops. If you could somehow figure that out in the team setting, boom, you're good. But I feel like that's just so much brain power required to figure out a strat for that, because it's gonna proc
Yeah.
on that one hit instead of like on multiple hits. So it's like you have to line up the hits perfectly.
Yeah. I like the changes, but I feel like the problem is it's like kind of forcing speedrunners to fit like more items because you need someone on like freezes and you need someone with a ZGS, and then if you miss the ZGS, the room's gonna be like really awful.
Yeah.
I don't know what the accuracy on that is, but um, yeah, it's kind of hard to fit that stuff. I feel like so maybe some people are just gonna do the room the way they have been, and we won't really see too much for the changes.
We'll see, because I know I can already fit freeze on prep with spellbook swap. It's just,
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just hoping that with the changes they have intended for making it more consistent damage or just more predictable,
Hmm.
it'll make it a lot more easier in solos. But we'll see, because CM Mud is just bad.
Yeah.
It's just really bad.
Yeah. I have a pretty good I have a pretty good clip somewhere where I get the two on same tick. I get ranged while in melee range. It was a 51-30, and then it ranges me again in melee range. They're still same tick, and it was a 50-29, and I die. And I'm like, dude, what do you do in this room? There's just
I
nothing.
I always call that room like the 1v1 against 1013, because it's
Yeah,
literally
for
like you're
sure.
fighting off against that rank 1 LMS player when Mudda dials in the
Yeah.
room. You don't know what to do. You're just gonna die.
Yeah, when they were doing the Dead Man finals where they had all the 1v1s in like those little rooms, I wish just like one of the bracket slots was taken up by Small Mutt. I just wanted to see like how the average PKer would handle this.
Small Mutt and Mama Mutt at the same time.
Yeah, Mama Mutt just watch him from the side.
Fucking shooting fireballs. I would love to see that too.
Yeah, it'd be sick.
Okay, well, aside from Mudda, what about Tecton?
What did they end up deciding? I know they had a couple options. Did they decide on one or
I don't think they've hard set on anything yet, but the few
okay?
mentions were like guaranteed Dragon Warhammer spec on your first spec. The other one
Yeah,
was reducing the crush defense in Enraged Tecton. Another one was making it where you can't get more defense when it goes back to the anvil. And then the other one was the Elder Maul buff, which was every
yeah,
hit with the Elder Maul shaves off 5% of current defense or something like that.
yeah. I thought the Elder Maul one was like kind of cool for solos. It gives a niche to the Maul, but I don't think people would even fit it.
Yeah.
I think it's better just at least for the speed runs for like an Iron Man doing CMs or something. Maybe you bring Elder Maul because it makes the room a lot more consistent. But it'd be cool to see them like find a way to make the Elder Maul best in slot at Tecton. I think that would be really cool just because there's just nowhere else in the game the thing's useful.
Yeah, it would be really
Um,
nice if they made a BIS. I mean, honestly, I felt like that change they said for the Elder Maul would be nice, not just for Chambers, but to outside of Chambers. I haven't
oh,
thought of
that's cool.
I haven't thought of anything game breaking giving that application to the Elder Maul, but at the
Yeah.
same time, you never know. There'll be some like Summit Big Brain that's like, okay, if you do this, then this ends up being like super easy at, I don't know, something like Muspa. I don't know.
Right, yeah, some weird spot. Yeah, that's actually a cool idea, having the Elder Maul just drain defense really slowly.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, maybe make it like on successful hit or something as well, so it's like not as powerful. Um, yeah, I think first Warhammer hitting is like fine for Tecton. Just like something to make the room more consistent. I know like solo speedrunners in particular just reset there for hours, so like hopefully something for soloers specifically, because in teams Tecton doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, you just like never need to reset it in like decent teams, I guess, because you just hit like 3 hammers, couple BGSs, and it's just safe and it dies.
It's mostly just small teams that really suffer. Like fives, you're not really gonna
Yeah.
feel it, and then normal chambers, the HP is kind of low, so it usually dies most of the time. But having that guaranteed
Hmm.
spec will still be really nice for teams, and especially in
Yeah.
duos and solos.
I wonder if it's gonna work. So if you're all same tick with the first hammer, if it's gonna all hit. Like if you have 5 people first ticket with hammer, You just get 5 guaranteed drains.
I wonder. I think it's PID based, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it might be.
That. I'll have to see what ends up happening. Because imagine all those hammers hitting.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's actually insane.
Yeah, you just get a guarantee, like however many people are in it. Like all of them get a 30% drain. That'd be pretty broken.
I also wonder if a vulnerability would still work then. So if you cast vulnerability, will that count as the first hit, or?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Hit your first hammer spec.
Wow, that might make it to where like soloers don't even take the guaranteed hammer because they want to play for the potential of like vulnerability 2 hammers instead of just not resetting as long for that first hammer hit.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to like look in the sims like what is technically better for potential or what's technically better
right,
for
yeah.
Your sanity, because resetting so long does drain people. That's why I don't like doing solo.
Yeah,
because solo CM and resetting tech down for hours on end is
yeah, definitely
demotivating.
It's hard to find that like balance between reset efficiency and going fast, especially with Tecton being like the first room in CM.
Yeah.
Because I know it's possible to get a 0 anvil. I think people have gotten it, but I'm not sure. But there might be someone out there wild enough to just reset for the 0 anvil Tecton and save like 20 seconds immediately.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the odds because I remember I simmed it, but it was like some crazy number. So it'd be a lot of resetting you'd have to do for it.
Yeah, definitely.
So is there any other chamber changers that stand out to you, or not really?
I'm not really remembering too much. Wasn't there something like the crab room, like you can't splash on them anymore, which might like mess with speedruns?
They made it where it's above X magic threshold, so we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I was scared about that too, but they addressed that very fast, and the poll came out. I was like, yes.
Yeah, because I remember seeing like there's this new splash alert Hackett crabs, and I was like, oh, that's gonna mess with speedruns if you're like guaranteed to hit. That'd be kind of annoying.
Yeah, I would have been very depressed about that. There's also that change for Vasa, and I'm not sure what they're dead set on, which was like either nerfing the defense of Vasa just to make range like hit more, or making it where when it hits the crystal, it doesn't heal for a bit, but after like a couple seconds on the crystal, it'll start healing.
Yeah, that could be cool. I remember one of my friends had like an account that was limited pretty severely and was trying to do a solo CM under time as like a challenge, and Vasa was like such an incredible wall with like routing that, so I was helping him route. And I remember it got to the point where it was better to like hit Vasa with like 3 attacks, and then you just go onto the crystal, so it just doesn't like it touches the crystal. The crystal's already like 1 HP. Yeah. You kill the crystal, and it just gets off immediately. It like ended up being better because like the range gear was so bad, you were kind of just hoping for ruby bullets, and then it was like good enough melee gear to where you could kill the crystals pretty fast. So you're just really, really hoping to like get the ruby bolt procs and kill the crystals before it even has a chance to heal. So something like that would be huge for like more limited accounts, maybe. Yeah, the healing at least.
What I feel like right now is that room is a DPS wall. I attempted to do Vasa on my new GM account.
Yeah.
I just ended up leaving because it was like my DPS was so bad. I only had I think 75 range, so obviously I'm not gonna get that room.
Yeah, that's tough.
And that's even with it being I don't know if I skilled it up. I'm pretty sure I scaled up the rooms for the extra points. So yeah, that was not ideal.
Yeah, back to the good old days on the UIM. Vasa was always the longest room. I think one time I like barely made time. It was like a 14-minute Vasa because this is back when the UIM was in like void blowpipe. Just like hoping for the best in that room. And there was I had like a lot of routing for it to where it was mostly about like Venge. That was like where a majority of the damage was coming from. You'd smuggle like as many brews as you can, because I'd have to prep at the farm room there to get like enough brews for Vasa, and you would really just try and like Venge it down with like the hundreds from Venge that you'd be able to hit. That room was like actually ridiculous, like with bad gear. Yeah,
so the other thing too that's gonna make it nice is that you're gonna have access to more layouts because a lot of people don't want to prep an overload, and now there's gonna be more layouts that prep overloads.
Yeah, they said were they gonna add it to like Vasa and I think Vesp was maybe the other one?
Vasa and Vesp. Hold on, I gotta shut my door real quick.
Okay.
I didn't want my brother's audio coming in. It's probably gonna leak in anyway, but at least it won't be as loud. But yeah, so
Yeah, I couldn't hear it. You're probably fine.
So yeah, they're doing that. They're also making Vang potions more consistent with, I think the Mage Vanguard drops enhance now.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's actually pretty big for I guess like routing, because if you not so much I guess for CM, but maybe for regulars you can have your enhance from Vangs. I don't think it would make them like viable, but at least for speedruns, for like just getting KC, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends. I feel like people are going to skip out on Vanguards anyway, because people hate that room because of resetting easily, but all I'm saying is I kind of enjoy that room. With the Fang,
yeah, I like
it's not too
Vangs.
bad. Like, Blowpipe Fang, and then just gotta be a little bit careful on the melee Vanguard depending on your mage weapon, but those weapons kind of make it a bit nicer to kind of lower them.
Yeah, I find it funny how Vanguards, it's like, if you have horrible gear, they're an awful room. If you have, like, decent gear, great room, love it. If you have, like, perfect gear, terrible room,
Yeah,
this
sucks.
sucks.
You just overkill it. Even in CM, you gotta be careful. And it's like, we're getting better and better gear to the point where it's like, it's gonna become easier and easier to reset it. So it's gonna be like, give it take like 2025, we're gonna stop using prayers in that room in CMs. Just to make sure
exactly.
we don't reset it. It's gonna be so bad.
We're gonna have to bring, like, some new magic weapon they released that's, like, 3 tick and blast 50s or something. It's like, yeah, we can't bring Shadow to this room because Shadow max hits 140.
Yeah, just let us use Storm of Armadyl 4-tick magic weapon and brings it down.
Right, yeah. That's good.
Alright, anything else we want to talk about Magano's changes, or shall we move on?
We can move on. I don't think there's too much more.
Okay, so as you all know, I did mention earlier that this man is a Pokemon speedrunner, so let's do a little bit of a compare and contrast between Pokemon speedrunning and RuneScape speedrunning.
Yeah, I like Pokemon speedrunning is like such an interesting part of like the overall speedrun community because while there is like input as like a skill, like you're still like hitting correct inputs and whatnot, a lot of Pokemon speedrun is about like the planning and like the knowledge of the particular like category you're doing. Like if you catch a Nidoran that has 14 DV attack, which is how good its attack stat is, what's the range to KO like the Caterpie on Route 3? Do you go for 2 horn attacks, or do you try and save one of your horn attacks and go for like horn attack tackle? So there's all these strategies that you can come up with on the fly that you need like the knowledge background in order to just know like each particular scenario. And that's what sets the good runners for Pokemon at least apart from the others, is just their knowledge of like every scenario that can occur. You definitely get that in like speedrunning and old school, I feel like. Mostly from like supply management and like that sort of stuff. So say you get to like Tecton or something and someone misses their hammer, you have to know like, okay, this person still has a hammer they can go for. If they miss, we need this person to like double BGS instead of BGS claw. There's like all the like little strategies that you can come up with for the different like roles, I guess you could say even. I know you do a lot of like prepping for CM, and like I feel like there's a lot of strategy to that and like how you route your inventory and your like all this sort of stuff when you're like farming and all that. I always see that as like a really cool part of the CM experience.
I love prepping a lot. I think prepping is really fun. Just like when you're doing speedruns, obviously you kind of have an idea of what you need to make, but sometimes when the rooms are going too fast, you have to kind of cut back. Like the worst thing, or the one thing you should probably like cut back on is probably restore if things are going too fast, because worst comes to worst, people can just lazy flick their prayers at Olm and the room.
Yeah, true.
Conserve. You can't really conserve brew that much. You're gonna take damage. With those cox changes, it won't be as bad because I feel like that's gonna be a lot damageless. But yeah, you kind of have to react on the fly with how fast things are going. So the best preppers will be able to always make it on time and make the right choices to not kill their team. And be on time.
Yes. I feel like that's a pretty big link between at least Pokemon speedrunning and old school, is just like a lot of it's the decision making. Old school definitely has a lot of mechanical skill, like that's undeniable. But at least from the knowledge aspect, it's really cool to see like at least the route planning.
Yeah, and doesn't Pokemon also run on like quote unquote seeds?
It depends on the game quite a bit. So, a lot of Pokemon games have manipulations now, and each game is like at least somewhat different. So, for like Gen 1, whenever you save the game and then hit like the reset button on your, or like turn the power off and back on if you're playing on Game Boy, your RNG seed gets set to the same value. It'll always be the same. It starts at 0 when you like power on. And if you do the same series of actions every single like frame until like you get your result that you want, you'll always get that same result.
Okay.
There's like some so it's really awkward because like it runs at 60 FPS, but 2 of the frames that you can save the game on have like an extra frame of lag when you power on, I think is how it works. So there's a 2 out of 60 chance that every manip fails. And some manips are higher, some are lower. So it's like there's even this RNG within like the RNG manipulation, which is kind of funny. But you can like play the game perfectly, like do the same exact inputs, and you'll get like the same results. So that's how we like manipulate a perfect sat Nidoran and get like Surge's trash cans to be the exact 2 that we want instead of having like search through all of those. And then later gen games, for like Fire Red and Leaf Green, for example, you look at your trainer ID when you start the game, and based off your trainer ID, you can look at every single frame for the entire game. So, like, let's say your trainer ID is like 35785. You would like type that number into a program, and it would tell you every single frame that you could possibly select your starter on.
What the fuck?
And you can look for specifically, I want a Squirtle that's Modest Nature, 31 IV Special Attack, 31 IV Speed, and you like look through the spreadsheet that has like every Squirtle on it, and you're like, okay, I want this one. I need to hit frame, let's say like 1197. So then you plug in that frame into a metronome program that then will like assist you in hitting that frame. So you use a lot of like metronomes for the Gen 3 runs because it's like a frame perfect input with like no visual or audio cue. You just have to, from power on till hitting A on yes, I want to use Squirtle, you have to wait exactly like 1,171 frames, let's say. So then you need the metronome program to be able to do that, or there's just like no way you'd be able to be like, I'm chilling, that frame, and like hit A exactly at the right time. And then Gen 4, it's kind of similar to Gen 1, except you don't have to do the save and quit, and it's guaranteed, but the issue is the movement's a lot harder. So some people are experienced enough to like not use any repels for the first like hour of a Gen 4 run because they're just able to frame perfectly play the entire game, all the movement, for like the first hour. Now, when I say frame perfect, Pokemon plays on like a buffer system. So like if I were to hit like right on my Game Boy, my character like starts moving, and it takes them like, half a second to move that tile. During that half a second, I can hold up, change my direction. Like you'd have to frame perfectly switch between like right and up. You have like half a second for like all the movement. But across such a long run, a single mistake, you drop the manip, and then maybe you planned on not getting any encounters in an area, so you didn't buy a repel, but you mess up the movement, and now you're going to get like 4 encounters and lose a minute.
So just that one mistake would just completely just ruin everything for you?
Yeah, it would just snowball the rest of the run. You'd no longer be manipping, so you'd have to just play more normally at that point. So that's kind of like that skill gap of the good Gen 4 runners versus kind of the newer ones.
So I'm gonna guess there's probably like Gen 4 tasks out there where they like perfectly just do that, right?
Yep, just the whole game.
I gotta watch that. I'm actually hella curious.
Yeah.
This is more of like a personal question, but like, what about Colosseum? Because I remember I tuned in some of your Colosseum speedruns. How does that one work?
Oh, that game's so sick. Colo is like such a cool run. We actually only do one manip. So for about 5 years now, I would say, there's been rumors of us finding Quilava manip in a solve the game. I think there's been like progress, but I still don't think we have it yet. I haven't run Colo for like about a year now, but yeah, for Colosseum, it's like a little complicated, but basically when you're on the intro screen of the game, I can even like, I guess I can just pull up my Colosseum sheet and you can kind of look, because this would be a lot easier to explain with like a little bit of a visual. And I do have all the RNG minip stuff like already set up. This, and I'll share it on Discord. So this is the RNG sheet for Colosseum. And the way it would work is I'd pick Colosseum as my game, and I would hit find my seed. Oh, you can't see this pop-up that I just got here. I'll hold it up with my webcam.
Oh my god.
There's this little pop-up, and it'll tell you when you're doing the... you go to Battle Now, which is like a mode on the intro screen of Colosseum. And when you're on the intro screen, the RNG is frozen. The RNG is not advanced. So it's just whatever value you powered on your GameCube at, you have no clue. So here, let's say it's like Thomas, Swampert are the two that are on the Battle Now team. I would plug these two in. As you can see, there's 7.1 million different RNG seeds that I can still be on.
Oh my god.
And then like, let's say the next one's like Thomas Raikou, and then that's going to limit the seeds down to 294,000. Then let's say it's Thomas Swampert, and then Seth Entei, and then Thomas Suicune, and then Seth Suicune, and then Thomas Metagross. Our seed is 666 ACD81. That is our RNG seed that we are on, which is great. And then our runnable Espeons, there's none. So we looked at all these Espeons. These are our Espeon and Umbreon stats. We looked at every single one of these. None of these are good enough for the speedrun, because you need like very particular stats. So like this Espeon here, you can see it on the right. It's hasty, hidden power water with 42 power. Those are its IVs, which is a number from 0 to 31, which determines how good your stat is. So this Espeon's like not runnable. None of these are. This one's actually pretty close. It has the IVs, but it doesn't have the hidden power or the nature. So that's why you can see all these like stats are green. So we're going through like the spreadsheet or whatever. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for an Espeon with good enough stats, and we don't have any here. So I can hit this button that says auto reroll, and in 308 rerolls of the Battle Now screen, I would have a runnable Espeon, which if we look, it is... Normally I would just hit a... Wait, was that it? I would just hit a button and it would take me to it, but I'm showing like how many that we're looking at here.
Jesus
there,
Christ.
right there. That was it. Do you see it? Right there. That one. Oh, I just saw it like a second ago. Right there, that green. Right there.
That streak of green modest.
That's the one. That's the Espeon we're looking for. So perfect special attack, because you can't have 31 special attack with hidden power grass. It needs at least 27 speed. It needs like decent bulk. This is actually a pretty terrible Espeon. I probably wouldn't take this personally. I'd probably reroll again. And then this one would be after 674 more. I can hide the unwanted ones, and there's 2 of them on this one. This is just a weird quirk with how the RNG works. These are identical Espeons.
Interesting.
But yeah, then after whatever that was, 983 rerolls, this Espeon exists, and this is the one I would want to use for the run. This one's pretty solid. It has a lot better defense. You can see 30 defense, really high HP, really high special defense. So this Espeon would be runnable. I would take this. So I would sit there and re-roll the battle teams 983 times, or I would do a second trick, which is where you go into a battle mode and you sit there and you watch a Moltres and a Charizard stand there, and every time they blink, it advances the RNG, and it's faster than like doing the battle teams. It's like ridiculous, the amount of stuff that goes into this manipulation, but at the end of the day, you're on the RNG seed you want. You want to be on RNG seed F0351F84. So let's say you're on that seed. You then have to frame perfectly hit yes on selecting your character's name, exactly 891 or 893 in this case frames after you hit new game. So you have exactly 893 frames you have to wait, and it's a 60 FPS game. So you have like a 1/60th of a second window to hit the A button to get the Espeon you need.
Jesus.
And that takes a long time sometimes if you keep messing it up.
How did, like, someone had to just sit there and program this, right? Someone, like, made this.
Yeah.
So they figured this out, and then they created it. That's just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, I think this was originally worked on by the Bomb Stew, who's like a very well-known Pokemon modder slash, like, ROM. Should I even say ROM hacker? He made the Universal Pokemon Randomizer, which you've probably heard of. That's how people do, like, randomized Pokemon. And then Aldolaro picked it up after, and I think made this final version that's a lot better than the old one.
I guess it probably helps when you're making ROMs and stuff because you kind of have an understanding of like how the code works then. So that probably helps in him making this powerful tool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like some powerful tools that, show from time to time in old school RuneScape, but I don't think we have anything like that just because we don't have to do hard resets. We don't have to do like frame perfect stuff like that. Obviously there's ticks and stuff, but that's ticks. It's 0.6 seconds and we can just, it's kind of easy to get in. It's like a dance game, bro. It's like
exactly.
Crypt of the Necrodancer type stuff. But
yeah, imagine if RuneScape had like a frame system and the Elder Maul attacked every 3.78 frames, or like some like crazy thing where it's like each weapon has like exactly how many frames it is instead of the tick system. It'd be crazy, like how different the game would be.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. But that was kind of interesting, like, going into talking a little bit about that, because I didn't really know too much about all the seeds and then all the other stuff of, like, Leaf Green, Gen 1, Gen 4, and the fact that you just play the whole game without getting any encounters, which I think is even crazier.
Yeah. I will say, nobody is good enough at Gen 4 to do Manip after they get the bike. Once you get the bike, the movement is, like, too hard to continue to be perfect. Because even getting on the bike, I think, has to be frame perfect. And, like, that menu alone is, like, so many frame perfect inputs that just nobody does it. Let alone, like, doing all the movement on the bike perfectly. But that's what's really cool about those games, is just, like, the skill level is really high for the top-end runners.
Yeah. So, let's briefly talk about, in regards to RuneScape and Pokemon speedrunning, what are some things that you like about both of them, and what are some things you dislike about both of them?
I love the RNG aspect, and I hate the RNG. Yeah, I love the runs being like different every time. Obviously, that's something that's really cool. Like having to adapt is like something that like not every run has. I feel like there's a lot of games that really just don't have RNG, and it's really just down to like the skill, and doing the exact same thing every time. I don't personally find those style of runs that interesting, but for Pokemon, like I love. I'm mostly known for like the catching categories, like catching all the Pokemon and whatnot. I love the routing and the planning that goes into that. So, like if I'm doing a catch 'em all run and I get Paris and Mount Moon, it's like, okay, I can skip it in Safari Zone. I don't need to catch it there because I already caught one. But now I have a low-level Paris instead of a high-level Paris, so I can't just evolve it in one level. So now I need to plan to get a Paris. All right, well, how do I need to get Paris? Okay, well, it's going to be in Safari Zone as an opportunity. If I don't get it there, my last chance is Mewtwo Cave. So then when I find myself in Mewtwo Cave, I'm forced to get Parasect. But because it's kind of rare there, it's more likely that I find, let's say, Venomoth in Mewtwo Cave, and I can then maybe skip on that. And there's this whole, like, string of routing that you have to just plan everything around for these runs. And I just find it really interesting, just not having the same run every time and really having to, like, plan things.
Yeah, I think playing with the cards that you're given is always nice in games, because what truly shows that you're a proficient player is even if you don't have a good hand, you still make do with it and you make a good run out of it. Because
Yeah,
that's a nice
exactly.
thing about RNG, but the worst part is, at least in games like RuneScape, right? Where
Hmm.
all it takes is that one hammer miss to absolutely throw an on-pace run. And that is the most
Yeah.
destructive feeling. Especially if you're someone that's been running for days, weeks, months,
Hmm.
years trying to like have the perfect run. But obviously, it's always going to be down to RNG whether or not you have like the no set, specs hitting,
Exactly.
the nuclear hits, any of that.
Yeah, because when I got when I got my final record for 124, which is catching all the Pokemon no glitches, um, the run itself was like not great. Um, I had so many like really good runs. I played like super clean the whole time, whatnot. But the run that happened to just get the best time, I caught Tauros first ball, which is the hardest Pokemon to get in the run because Tauros is in Safari Zone only and it runs from you and it's awful.
Yeah.
But I just happened to get it first ball that run and saved like 16 minutes. It just that's
Six.
just how it is.
So catching
Yeah.
it in one ball is a 16-minute time save.
Yeah, so Tauros is a 4% to appear. It's only in Safari Zone. We use a really it's far too advanced to explain. It's called desum manipulation. You're constantly tracking like how many frames it's been since your previous encounter, what your previous encounter was, all this information, and you can like help to predict what your next encounter will be based off the timing you get the encounter. It's incredibly complicated, but it increases the odds of Tauros from 4% to maybe like 10% at best. Um,
It's still so low. What the fuck?
yeah, so you're still like at best hoping for a 10% chance of Taurus appearing. When it appears, each ball is a 6.5% to catch, and it's 80% to run every time you throw a ball. So it turns into this like huge math problem. On average, you need to get like 12 Tauros to appear before you catch one. The worst I've ever had, it's taken like 105. Um, so the variance on it is like absurd. Like you can get a first ball and save like 15 minutes. You can get a 105th ball and lose an hour. And there's three of these Pokemon you have to get in the run. You get Tauros, Kangaskhan, and Pinsir, and they're all the same. So the variance on Safari Zone is like it could be like a 12-minute split at the task level, or like a 2.5 hour split if you just get unlucky. Um, so yeah, that's one of the like craziest parts about the catch 'em all speedrun for glitchless is just the variance on these segments. And for my
Yeah.
my record, the overall run was like okay, like nothing went horribly wrong except for I think like maybe Machoke. There was something that went like pretty wrong. Um, but because my Safari Zone was like 3 standard deviations off average on catch luck, it just happened to be a really really good run. But I guess if you run it enough times, you're gonna get those situations, and you probably see that with your old school speedruns sometimes.
Yeah, whether it's like no Crystal Vasa,
Mm-hmm.
when you're not supposed to be getting one. Like
Yeah,
when we're running like a
exactly.
low amount of ZCBs because we thought it was higher odds than it actually was. We got one and we were just like pogging off. There's another one that I think happened. Okay, so we had a incredibly nuclear head phase at Ulm. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
like less than 30 seconds or some shit like that
Oh, that's crazy.
without ZCBs. I think I can go look for the picture, but I'll have to be
That's
digging for
wild.
it. But it was crazy. Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, yeah.
Record. If I type world record in my disk, I might be able to find it because I jokingly said world record head phase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, while you're
Uh,
looking for that though, I wanted to touch on maybe a little bit like Inferno speedrunning. I think that's
yeah.
like really cool for old school, and it fits the same thing of like what I was talking about with runs that are different every time. Those Inferno speedrunners, like having to know what to do in like every situation in the Inferno, like that's got that like same mentality of just like the adaption, and I find that skill like really cool. Like the people who are really really good at the Inferno.
Yeah, because the thing with Inferno is there's so much variation as to what
Yeah,
spawns you're going to have, your hits, and then the amount of skill required. There's so much execution skill required for Inferno.
yeah. Like the execution alone is like really high end, but there's also the challenge of like knowing what to do in every situation. It's like, do I chin the nibblers again on that XP drop? Where do I want to stand to like lure everything properly? Like all there's like so much that goes into play that you wouldn't really think about.
That is true. That's probably why it is by far the hardest piece of content in the game. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe. I kind of doubt it. There might be something that ends up coming into the game and ends up being harder, but only time will tell. But
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's why people like appreciate the Inferno speedrunning so much, because like most people like who watch like who will end up watching Inferno speedruns, not all of them have Infernal capes, and just seeing like content that you can't even do be speedran is always just like really special, I think.
yeah. All right, I think we can move on to the next question. So, why
Sure.
do you enjoy playing an Ultimate Ironman? So you started off with a main account, moved on to the Ultimate
Yeah.
Ironman, and I think whenever I pop into your RuneScape streams, I usually see you on the Ultimate. So, what's the charm
Mm-hmm.
of that? What's the charm of an Ultimate?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to like what I've been saying with like planning being really interesting to me. I think UIM is very different than all the other account builds because there's so much more like planning and like I guess routing that goes into like pretty much every decision you make.
Yeah.
Like even down to like what items do I want to keep? I can only keep a certain amount of them because I don't have a bank. I don't have space to keep these items. Um, you'll have to make like decisions on that. I've dropped over 3 Armadillo crossbows at different times because I need an Armadillo crossbow for something. I go get it. Oh, I don't have space for something. Like I don't have enough space right now. What can I get rid of? Well, the least useful item is the Armadillo crossbow again. It's got to go. Um,
Jesus.
yeah, like all the decision making and like that sort of stuff just makes it interesting, at least to me, I think. Um, even like within content, so like even when I was like doing TOA, for example, trying to route like a UIM's inventory is like very different from a main accounts, I feel like, because a main account doing like 400 TOAs, it's like, okay, I'm going to fill my entire inventory with items that are useful, and I'll bring like 2 prayer pots or something. But for me, it's like, okay, I have to have my seed box on me, my looting bag on me. Those can't possibly go away. Every potion that I want to use at all has to be on me. So, like, you can just pre-pot an anti-venom. Like, that's sick. Like, you can just click on anti-venom. Oh, I don't get venomed by the monkeys in the monkey puzzle. On UIM, you don't have that luxury. So, you have to either find a way to bring an anti-poison in case you step on the venom pool, or you just have to deal with the venom if you get hit by it. So then, is it worth me bringing anti-venoms, losing an inventory space to make the monkey puzzle 100% consistent? You have to like make that decision. Do I want to bring super combat? That would help. Like Baba would be faster, but I don't need them for that. Kefri would be faster, but I don't need them for that. Do I want to bring these to speed up the rooms? You have to make that decision because the super combat's 2 spaces. You need to bring the potion in. You need to have the noted super combats in your inventory. The alternative could be I could go to the Warriors Guild, hit the stash unit there, Dragon Battle Axe spec at the stash unit, put it back, buy an attack potion, chug that down. And I've got plus 12 attack, plus 20 strength. I put preserve on. That'll last me to Kefri probably.
That is
There's
actually
like
that's pretty innovative way of doing it. Yeah.
yeah, there's all these like weird decisions that like you have to make, just down to like the planning of the inventory, until you find something that works. And I always find that like really cool with UIM in particular because it's not so much about like fitting the maximum like that you can possibly fit. It's about like finding something that like works for you with like where your account status is, and hopefully doing things like consistently. TOA was like a really good example of that because I went through so many different iterations of like what I was bringing. It got to the point where I wanted to do farm runs when I was doing TOA because I like the seeds you get from it are just too much. I don't want to be doing farming my whole life. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna bin the Torm, I'm gonna bin the Ferocious gloves, I'm gonna bin the Xerite Van braces, I'm gonna wear Barrow's gloves. That's 2 more spaces when I'm farming. So I'll have like 6 inventory space for the herbs to go into my inventory, so I'm not like doing 2 at a time, running to the tool leprechaun to note them. All these like decisions about like not even just like the thing you're doing, but like the other content you want to be doing at the same time. All that comes into play. So I just find it like really interesting, all the planning aspect and the strategizing.
I can see that now, because, like, obviously I always thought about, like, Envy's kind of trained, but I never really
Yeah.
thought of the stuff like, do I go to Warrior's Guild and drag Battle Axe spec and just choose the super attack, or do I just... Yeah, I never thought of stuff like that. That actually does kind of sound interesting.
Yeah. There's like with UIM in particular, like there's like obviously the items you have to keep on you. Like if you have a twisted bow, you're gonna keep a twisted bow on. If you have like the shadow, you're gonna keep the shadow with you. But there's some items that are storable. So like the BGS is like incredible for UIM. If you have it's like Bando's plate body from hard clues, and then Bando's cloak from medium clues, I think, are the two items that it's stashed with. So yeah, on the UIM, it's like, oh, I want to drain something's defense. Oh, let's go to the stash unit, grab my BGS. If you want to do like Slayer, it's like, oh, I'll just go to the Warriors Guild and grab the Slayer helm out of the stash unit there. So like the storable stuff is like a lot of UIM's goals is just getting all the like best storable items that you can get. While other people will, like irons, I guess, would go for like all the items in the game. And there's a lot of like collection log irons that just go for like all the items. Yeah, at least for myself, I like going for like the storable stuff because it's cool to not lose inventory space over items.
All right. So you also got Grandmaster recently on the Ultimate Ironman.
I did.
So tell me about that grind, because that sounds like a struggle and a half.
And like honestly, it wasn't that bad. I have pretty good gear on the UI. I have like all three of the now I have all three of the mega rares. For a while I didn't. So like that made GMs like very, very reasonable. One of the tasks, by the way, this is just being a hater of Nightmare, but the Nightmare solo speedrun is just like literally a gear check. They're like, do you have Inquisitor Scythe? Yes or no? Like that's literally what that combat achievement is. Like I could probably just like click auto retaliate on my main and just
Get the time like it's nothing.
yeah, just chill. It's like, but then if you don't have like Inquisitor Scythe or you don't have Shadow, or in my situation it was the Imbued Heart that was like the big problem going for the time. So my route, this was the route that I did because again, you know, UIM is about planning. I have the video of me getting the time. I don't have the full video because it'd be about 2 hours long per attempt. But
oh my god.
Yeah. So the route to do the Nightmare speedrun. You have a locator orb on you. You die in Prif. All your stuff's on the ground. I then grab all the gear I need to kill Phantom Muspa. I then go kill Phantom Muspa until it drops 2 of those magic potion things.
I was assuming it was the pots.
Yep. So I need the potions. So then I could make 1 magic potion. I don't remember what they're called. Then I go back to Prif. Yeah, Forgotten Brew. I think that's it. Go back to Prif. Juggle all my stuff. So like juggling on the UIM is your stuff's on the ground for 1 hour when you die. So to juggle, you just pick everything up, die, pick everything up, die. And you just time that every like 50 minutes or so, so that your stuff stays on the ground and doesn't get deleted. So it's a way to play UIM. Some people do. It's very stressful, I think, to juggle your stuff every hour. And if you miss a timer, whatever timer you miss, all those items get deleted. I don't play that way. I keep a looting bag. I put most of my stuff in that. You can also death bank at like Hispori to put items in there if you're trying to do content that's safe with like less item space. But for the Nightmare solo speedrun, you need as much space as you can because you're just going to take chip damage. I also didn't have a Blood Fury, which I thought I needed the accuracy from the Torture to get like higher DPS, so I thought the Blood Fury wouldn't help me get the time. It probably would have, looking back, because I could have brought more items, but Yeah, so once I got the potion from Muspa, which would take like an hour probably, you'd go back to Prif, pick up all your stuff, die, pick up just the potions that you're going to use, run those over to the bank, unnote the potions, decant them down to 4 doses, so you have all the potions you need, die again so that the noted potions are on the ground, pick up just the unnoted potions from that death pile, accidentally click on one of the noted potions. Oh my god, now I have to die again. Die again to put that noted potion on the ground. Now you're picking up unnoted potions from 2 different piles. Hopefully still not accidentally clicking on any of the noted potions, because then you have to die again. The whole time you're juggling your timer, because you need to make sure that none of your items are going to despawn, so you have to know, like, okay, this death pile is 50 minutes, this one's 51 minutes. You have your, like, timer set up. So you're doing all this to get your inventory set up. You finally have your inventory set up for Nightmare. You go over there and you claw spec a 0, and you have to go rejuggle everything because you have to make sure you're set, because your claws were bad and you're not going to run a 0 claw spec, right? So you have to go POH again. I would also juggle, so I had like 28 of those necklaces, the teleport thing that takes you to Nightmare. I had like 20 of those on the ground. So I would lose one of those every attempt, because I would teleport to the Nightmare, drop 2 brews, teleport back to Prif, pick 2 brews off the ground, teleport back to the Nightmare, sip my pre-pot, and then drop the necklace to pick up the 2 brews I left there, and then go in. So I lose one of those necklaces every time my claws wouldn't hit.
That is such a process. Oh my! How long did it take you to do that?
It was like, I think about 10 hours to get the time, and like 4 hours of that was killing Muspa. Like, it was so annoying how it's like, I want to do the Nightmare speedrun, and it's like, well, I'm gonna kill Muspa for like half a day, I guess, because that's what I have to do for this.
I feel bad for laughing, but at the same time, it's like, it just seems kind of ridiculous, but it's like cool, but at the same time, it's also ridiculous with how difficult that time is.
Yeah, it's like, the time is not hard. Like, I didn't find it like it was a hard challenge. Like, I knew all the tick saves and stuff, and like where to save time, and it did end up mattering. I got a 1558.4, I think it was, and I scythed the last pillar. If I had waited on shadow projectile time, it wouldn't have made time. So me scything the last pillar like ended up mattering. And my scythe had to hit like a 50, and it did. It was sick. So yeah, that was pretty big.
Holy fuck.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds like...
Yeah, that was a crazy challenge to go for, just because of the annoyance.
Okay, now I don't want to play Ultimate Ironman.
Yeah.
But it is cool.
I think that was the most annoying thing I did for the GM grind. Everything else was like pretty easy. Perfect Tob took me like 3 days, because I was using the CA Discord thing.
Oh no.
And yeah. Yeah, so okay, here's another thing, by the way. I'm pretty confident. What's is it DNB boost or whatever? Like one of those boosting clans?
Boosting, DNG.
Yeah.
DNG's not DNG anymore. It's a whole shit show, but now it's less boosting.
Okay. They have plants in that CA Discord. I'm convinced. Like, they plant like people in that Discord who just like can't do these tasks, and then like you're like, oh my god, I should just use one of these boosting services. These people are so bad. I can't deal with this.
That is a conspiracy theory and a half.
They have to. There's no way. There's literally just no way that they don't have people in this. It is Discord
theory. Oh my god. Yeah. That's a crazy conspiracy theory. That would be hilarious if it's true. I doubt it, but at the same time, to be like OS boosting has plants in CA boosting to make people think like it is impossible to get the task unless you buy it.
Exactly.
That is like a 300 IQ move, actually. Oh my god.
Yeah. But yeah, you eventually, like, you'll find good people eventually. We found, like, at least for those kind of tasks, like, you'll find a couple people, and it's like, okay, yeah, we'll get the time eventually. And we found a team in that Discord, and we got to the last hit of Xeric, and someone just forgot to pray the last hit. We were like watching the death animation, range attack came out, someone just didn't pray it.
And they got
and
hit.
then got hit, and we had to do the whole thing again. Failed twice at Zarpus, but then we got it like the next time we got to Verzik, so it wasn't too bad, but it was kind of disheartening losing it, like watching the death animation.
True that. It could be pretty rough. I've had some, when I was first doing it, I had some really close calls. Like when I think I completed my first one, what ended up happening with...
Are you,
I'm mid podcast right now.
Stop it?
I would need a bit.
Okay.
Anyway.
You can pause if you need to. It's no
don't
big.
Worry about it.
Okay.
This is gonna be funny when I read the comments and they're like, "Hey, I like that part when your dad interrupted. Like they interrupted the Save A podcast about the pork chops."
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah. Anyway, this was like, I had to do this or we're gonna fail. We were all mispositioned. A lightning ball was gonna bounce the third time. So if a lightning ball explodes, it only fails on the final bounce and not on like bounce 1 and 2. So I see that we are all like not in good spots because of crabs. We didn't handle crabs properly. So I was like, fuck this. I ran right under Verzik, hoping the lightning ball would go through her. It does. She doesn't bounce me. I step out and I'm like, mission accomplished. It was
crazy.
We got the perfect on that one, but it was the most big brain move because in that moment I said, we're going to fail this if I don't do this. So I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And it worked.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. Yeah, I can't imagine going for that task early on because you were really quick to GMs. I feel like when I did, there's so much tech. Like we just chilled at the back of Soda Sag and put the shadows on. It's like, oh yeah, we're just doing this boss the way it's intended. Perfect theater.
And the nice spot is you can sit out of range too. Like me and my boys just DD'd for big ball. Like later on when I do attempts now, I just say, all right, we just go here to the spot. We don't have to deal with any split balls unless someone's late. Then we have to deal with one. Just makes it super easy for us.
Yeah, there's just like the technology for it's so much better now that like I don't think like any individual part of GMs is like a hard challenge. I feel like almost anyone could just do any individual task. Some of it's like a gear check, like. If you don't have Scythe, like going for the top speedruns are going to be harder for you than someone who does have Scythe, but like they're all still doable without like certain gear. And with enough like time, I feel like anyone can get any task. Like the Inferno ones, I thought were going to wall me for a long time. But I just spent like a couple days like learning the Inferno, like watching guides, understanding like how parts of the Inferno work, and I think it only took me, it was like 11 total runs to get all the tasks. It wasn't like that bad. Like none of it was like particularly terrible.
I think for me it's probably took me like 15, 16, including resets. Or actually maybe 20 because of no dig resets and because of 50 HP resets because I made a lot of stupid mistakes for the 50 HP one.
I got like Giga Spoon, the no digs. It was very fun. My 64, it was double west side mage range, double east side melees. I'm like, I'm just gonna sneak over here, put the blowpipe on.
You lucky son of a gun.
Yeah, it was funny. So that one only took me one try. I was pretty happy. 50 HP was the only one I failed, I think. That took like 3 or 4.
I think 50 HP is even easier now because of the Blood Scepter, so you can extra free 10% HP at the start of waves.
Yeah, unfortunately I didn't have the Blood Scepter. I do have the Elysian, which helped a ton on that, just because it reduces damage. So, I didn't really drop. I think the lowest I dropped was like 70, but like even then,
That's pretty sketchy,
yeah, bad ranger timing on that, and could fail it immediately. But yeah, I really liked all the GM challenges. Most of them were like really cool. I'm really hoping that they go the route, like, I understand like the speedrun tasks, but like those are kind of just gear checks the way they set them up. There's like no like real skill, I feel like, in a lot of the speedrun tasks, especially as more gear comes out. Like all the speedrun tasks are just gonna become obsolete by gear. So I really hope that they like release more of the creative challenges. Like all the tasks I found fun, it was like Mauritania. That was so much fun. Just like the only set I had, I had DH. I'm just like, I'm gonna bring a locator orb and let's send it. Like this is gonna be so much fun. Like this tasks are like so much more enjoyable than like kill the boss 50 times, kill the boss in under a minute 30, kill the boss without taking unintentional damage. It's like I really hope they go down these like creative.
I felt like Chambers missed out on that because there wasn't really too many interesting. There was like no interesting Chambers task whatsoever.
Yeah,
like
there really weren't.
Yeah, it was all speed, all KC, all kill boss with like how you're supposed to kill them, such as like surging ice demon. So yeah, it was just really uninteresting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, at least they had some fun ones for Tob. Like all the harder modes were all really fun. A lot of the like random weird tasks they had. I really hope they go down that route in the future. It was so much more fun doing the like actual like goofy challenges.
Kind of curious to see how they're gonna end up doing Desert Treasure 2 CAs.
Yeah.
Speaking of, oh wait, yeah, you know what? Let's skip ahead. You want to start talking about some Desert Treasure 2 stuff?
Yeah, sure.
Alright, so give me your thoughts on Desert Treasure 2. Like, did you like it and the Awakened bosses?
Alright, here's another deep conspiracy theory coming out. So Mod Nin played a UIM, still plays a UIM, no longer a JMod, and the exact timing that Mod Nin left the team is when Desert Treasure 2 came out.
Really?
And it's like the least unfriendly UIM content that's like ever been released in the game. It's so bad. They're like, yeah, so you need to like collect these ingots. You're gonna have like 7 of them on you at a time. They're on like 1 item each, so it's like 7 inventory spaces of ingots. If you want to kill the awakened bosses, the awakened orbs also unstackable. So you're gonna have like 7 ingots and like 12 awakener orbs, and you're killing Duke with 1 prayer pot and 1 shark. That looks awesome. All the axe pieces you want to keep, you want to go for the axe, you need to like kill 3 different bosses and have like 3 other inventory spaces taken up by the axe pieces, and then your 6 ingots, and then your awakener's orbs. It was so much. So like from like the UIM perspective, it's like really annoying killing the bosses because there's so much like unnotable stuff that you want to keep. And it just feels like make the ingots stackable or make the awakener's orbs stackable. Like I feel like people who are killing those bosses might want to bring like 5 awakener's orbs with them to kill like 5 in a row or like some kind of challenge like that. But yeah, from like a gameplay standpoint, I love all the bosses. They're all really good. I like everything about the bosses has been like really fun. It's really just the drops that annoy me.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't really like about the drops is how it feels like they're kind of fighting against each other because the ring mechanic.
Yeah, I can see that.
The ring mechanic kind of wants you to camp a boss because you get your free rolls, you get the ring. But then you have the axe where it's like, oh, you want to do all the bosses so that you get an axe fee. So it's like, do you want to camp the boss to get the axe or the ring, or do you want to just do every other boss so that you can get the axe? It's just like, what? Why not?
Yeah, that's
work
tough.
Together? That's the thing that just made me like just feel like, why would they do this?
Yeah, it was definitely kind of weird. The other thing is like the ingots just make no sense because they're like they have to be at high alc price by now. There's no way they aren't.
They're cheap. I'm pretty sure. Like they're super cheap.
Yeah, it's like why like you already have this system in place where it's like the RNG prevention on the ring, where it's like you get like the invisible rolls or whatever. Well, I have a second system for the ingot to build the rings. It just like it doesn't make any sense. I think they wanted the ingots to be like a valuable drop that you get every once in a while, and it's like there's no way they're going to keep any value, like unless they high alc for 500k or something.
Yeah.
It feels like it was like pretty easy to see that the ingots are going to be completely useless within like a week or two. And then like maybe what they could have done is made the ingots like really rare or something, like rarer than the rings. And then it's like, okay, I got my Altar Visage, but I need to get 3 ingots, and I only got 1 killing Bardorvis. Whisperer looks fun. I'll go kill Whisperer for my other ingots. and maybe get the axe piece there while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It just feels weird how they're the same rate because you're just gonna finish both around the same time on average. It just felt pointless.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are complaining about it, but they didn't really do anything to alleviate it. They were just like, they want to try something different, but they're just going to leave it as is. So, I kind of understand, like, after implementing something like the ring system, it'd be hard to change it because what do you do after you implement it? Okay, someone has 2 roles. You just completely just say, screw your roles, bro. We're just going to introduce this whole ring now.
Yeah.
So that's where it's like,
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like a thing. It's like hard to go back and fix stuff after it's been out for a little bit and kind of just have to deal with it.
That's even more spaghetti than they're going to have to go through because they're going to have to go on your character because the whole 2 out of 3 thing is probably geared to a variable on your character. So you take that out, and there's going to be some mad spaghetti that's going to be broken on the game.
Dude, I was so worried. You know that first update that came out where they changed all the drop rates?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm 2 out of 3 on this stupid altar ring. I swear to God, if I'm 0 out of 3 when they release this update, I'm gonna lose my mind. I was like, when this update comes out, they're gonna find a way to just change the roles that everyone's already had. It's like, I really do not want to lose my progress toward this ring when the update comes out.
I don't think they deleted anyone's progress, thankfully. But I don't know.
Yeah, aside from the drops, how did you feel about the DT2 bosses? I know you've done like the Awakened ones as well. I haven't really sat down and done those yet.
So, I didn't really like Whisper too much. I felt like Whisper was kind of a slog, and the Awakened one was also kind of just like... I thought some of the mechanics were really cool, but it's just that the fight just feels very boring once you've kind of gotten it down. It's like it's the same thing. Leviathan is probably the one I really enjoy because you can kind of do it 2 ways. You can kind of do the safe approach, or you could try to do the no-stun approach for normal kills.
I've seen some stuff about the no-stun. That's wild that people can do that.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Awakened no-stun because no, I'm not doing that. Noob Type is a different breed to do that with no game sounds, by the way. No game sounds. He's not human. But to do it as an option for normal kills, I think is good because you get faster kills, but there is more risk attached to it because you're going to be taking chip damage from the boulders.
Yeah.
And if you mess up, you're going to take a big hit and or fumble and die. So I feel like that was a incredibly well done boss. I have to apply Jagex on that because the Awakened and normal version, phenomenal. Bardervis is also pretty good. Obviously, there's people doing axe skip, and that kind of like boggles down the fight a bit. But if you want to maintain the DPS, then there's the sitting in the middle and then running around, which is the intended way of doing the fight. And you're rewarded for it because more DPS, you're not losing ticks. And I think if you were to do that in the Awakened version, it also gives you some very safe opportunities compared to just waiting for the axe to pop, because axes are 8-tick cycle, specials are happening on a 5-tick cycle. Especially when it's getting rapid fire, it can be hard to juggle changing your prayers and clicking through. So if you're doing the actual way of doing the fight, as long as you don't have a bad axe spawn, you'll typically have a lot more time to just dodge spikes, deal with the prayer specials, and also not get hit by an axe. So it can alleviate a lot of stuff. It's just you have to be more aware of the axe spawns.
Yeah, and because you're using a 5-tick weapon, normally you also have more time on the boss because you have to dodge axes on like really weird ticks.
Yeah, and then Duke... I felt like I liked Awakened Duke a bit more. It's like Dance Dance Revolution with all the movement. So I felt like I wish they brought some of those mechanics down to like the normal version and just made them like a little bit more,
engaging.
More friendly, a little more friendly where it doesn't do as much damage, but it would have prepared you more for the Awakened fight. But the normal version is very brain off. I don't think it's bad having a brain off boss. So I felt like Duke as a brain off boss was good, comparative to Whisper.
That's fair,
You kind of have to pay attention to Whisper, but at the same time, it just feels like it's just the same thing over and over again, and not much is changing. But it's nice having that like kind of chill option. So thumbs up on that. I felt like all the bosses were kind of good. Just Whisper was just the one I was just like, but I could see people liking it.
Yeah, it's nice for the people going for the axe. It's like, okay, you can go to like Leviathan and like sweat, and then it's like, all right, I want to chill for a bit, and you can go to like Duke and have like the variety.
And then as for the rewards, I felt like the rings are kind of good. Bellator and Altar are really good, and the Magus is super good, but the range one's the one that feels kind of lacking. But maybe it's just because
Yeah,
we don't have anything that gives us too many max hits when we're on task right now. So that's like in
exactly.
the future
Yeah.
when we get more range upgrades. That's when we're gonna feel that upgrade.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately on the UIM 1 Leviathan KC because there's like nothing there is useful to go for.
Yeah,
And it's like the boss I want to kill the most. It looks like it's the most fun. So
it really is
I was
fun.
kind of disappointed in that when I looked at like which one drops what ring. I'm like, Leviathan's the range ring. Dang it.
That's the other thing about Ultimate Ironman too. It's like there's some things you can't really do because you're not getting much
Yep.
benefit out of it.
Yeah, exactly. It just there's no point sending whatever it is like 600 Leviathan when
Yeah.
you're gonna be doing other stuff.
Unless you're trying to clog.
True. Yeah. Or go for the pets, which maybe eventually that's what I'll end up doing.
Yeah, but I felt like it was a solid update. I was a little salty when they removed the new prayers, but now that I look back
Yeah.
at that and I've kind of gotten over the whole salty phase, I'm like, I kind of understand it, and I think it's better for them to do this because
Right, yeah.
I really don't think that we need a whole new prayer book. Having new prayers
Yeah.
would be nice, but as an expansion to what we have, and not as a
Mhm.
whole new prayer book. Because there's that God alignments Reddit post, which I thought was a really cool idea, where based on the God you're aligned, you have like a select few prayers. Maybe they could
Yeah.
tweak it where instead of it being like select few prayers, they could augment your current prayers. So maybe if you have a
Yeah, that's
Armadillo
interesting.
one, you'd have like stronger range bonus, because then it's like
Yeah.
there's a little bit more choice where it's like, okay, you want to go the Bandos route, then your piety gets infused, no defense, stronger strength and stuff like that. But now it's
Mhm.
okay, you can only have one God alignment at a time, so now you have to pick and choose between like piece of content you're doing, what's going to be the best one to use, or maybe
Yeah.
even having some players using one alignment, having other players using another alignment, and they could still maybe do new prayers, but I think having those quote unquote alignments that just buff and tweak your current prayers would be really nice. It would really add a lot more choice based on what you're doing.
That'd be cool with like specializing roles as well, where it's like you really have like the major, the ranger, and like those kind of roles would
Yeah.
be kind of neat.
Could even do something like for piety, right? One thing they could do is like first hit on piety gives you like a huge accuracy boost, but that's and that could be like Zamorak or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something along those lines.
But that
I will say, what was that one overhead prayer they have? Was it Gambit?
it was
I think it was called.
It was like Gambit at the. I don't know if it was Gambit at the start or not, but the overhead one that gave you accuracy was pretty interesting. Because
Yeah, I thought that could be cool.
Tecton, Vasa, rooms that you don't take damage in.
Yeah.
But you could take damage if you messed up. Really amplified, like, play style.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping to see that one like sneak its way in somehow as maybe like a drop from like all 4 of the bosses. And it's just the one prayer, but yeah, they just scrapped the whole prayer book.
Yeah, if they introduced that prayer, I felt like it wouldn't really be too bad to have, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they get back to it at some point, but I'm not sure ever in any rush to introduce new prayers or anything like that. So it's probably just sitting there cooking for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe we'll see something from that at some point.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the raid. So what are some things you like about every raid and some things that you dislike about all the raids in RuneScape?
Okay, so starting out, we got Chambers, obviously.
Yeah, that's the first one.
Yeah, so that's probably the raid I spent the most time at, just because I enjoy it so much, and at the time, at least, it was the only raid, so that's all we would. That's pretty much all everyone would do was Chambers. Yeah, the thing that I like really like about Chambers is just kind of like, one, how you can like do it with teams. It was like fun just having groups of people doing Chambers, and like not just down to like the optimization where it's like you're speedrunning, but just doing like 2+2s with a friend, or like soloing is even like really interesting. The Olm fight's like one of the coolest bosses just in the game. Like each individual Chambers boss is like an okay boss. I don't think any of them are like particularly amazing, but Olm just happens to be one of the best designed bosses in the game.
It's all spaghetti, but it's like good spaghetti.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a mess, but it works.
Yeah, and there's so much like cool stuff you can do with it as well. So it's like it just ends up being like really fun. for Tob at least, I really do enjoy TOB. I find it kind of hard because you need teammates, and you can't always have good teammates on. And nobody wants to go to 416 or whatever the free for all world is now.
416. It's the 416. I'm pretty sure
it still is. Okay, yeah. So you don't want to find yourself there. But yeah, Tob's really cool. It's like it feels like it's kind of like Chambers, but with like higher stakes because of the wiping mechanic.
Yeah.
Can be like kind of a big fear. I actually really like TOA as well. I like that's the one that I like probably had the longest like straight grind streak, because at least for UIM the problem is I have my Sun Karis, and I don't want to not have my Sun Karis because I can't do like 500s and like high 400s and stuff like that. It's like, hey Shen, you want to Tob? And it's like, sure. And then I show up with like my Fang because it has the kit on it, and I can't put it in the looting bag because it's untradeable, and my Sun Karis. And then one of my friends gets a nice little picture of me, 0 HP, Sun Karis equip, clicking on my spec bar, like, why am I not healing at Verzik? But yeah, it's like, I really enjoyed it, but like, I wish they would have like some kind of system with holding the gems so that we could like do other content for the UIMs. Obviously, this doesn't like apply to the main accounts, because it's only your first gem that gets the boosted drop. But as far as the like content, I think it was pretty solid. The changes they made like really fixed it, I think. The monkey puzzle was like such a drag, and it's so much more fun now. I went back and did a few TOAs, and with the baboon being able to explode and kill things, that like fixed the whole room. I'm like super hyped when I see the volatiles, and I'm like,
that.
yes, come on.
Crazy. I actually enjoy that change a lot, and I guess the one where you could kind of stop the shamans from spawning stuff is kind of nice, but you don't really notice it too much because by the time you do venom him, it's probably dead by then.
Yeah, it's also kind of risky to do that. I noticed if you do like high invocation solos and you like venom 3 of them, they're like, yeah, we're just gonna slap you for 20s now with magic, and you messed up.
You have to flick your mage prayer on I don't know what their tick cycle is, but it's like something like 8 ticks or some shit.
Yeah, it's really long. It's like kind of hard, especially when you have like 2 of them on you that are like off tick.
Yeah, that's when it gets super hard.
Yeah, I feel like TOA, like they just didn't expect us to have some of the methods that we have, like Baba Red X, for example.
And they tried to fix it, and we still managed to find a way to do it anyway.
Yeah, because it's like the drop rates at TOA are like crazy. Like it's so easy to farm. You can get a drop every like 5 hours if you're doing solos like pretty efficiently. Yeah. And I feel like part of it is because they just didn't expect us to not have to use 3 brews at Baba and 3 brews at Akka, so everyone's able to just bring like max gear every raid. Because it's like, oh yeah, these rooms are just damageless now because we run in a circle at Akka and we walk underneath Baba.
Even at Akka, the only phase that really does a lot of damage to you is the melee attacks. The ranging to major kind of, you don't really take much damage, and you can easily just heal up, whether it's Blood Barrage, Blowpipe Specs, or Blood Fury. Those are your ways to sustain.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's kind of wild that the only phase that hits you is the one that can't hit you.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like maybe that was intended. Maybe they thought people would like run away from the meleeer. And I also think it's because it's designed for teams, because like at the end of the day it's like kind of team design. So it's only one person that's supposed to be tanking the meleeer. So that's why it has to hit one person for 20s, and then because it's not hitting everyone. So it makes sense.
Yeah, it actually does make a lot of sense. They could, in that case, then they could just maybe scale it down a bit in solos. Then, if you want to just hard phase tank it, but we have butterfly.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, back before I got the shadow, I would usually end up tanking the melees just because I don't want to click on it with Sang the whole time because it's pretty terrible damage. And then some runs it would just never switch, and it's just like 10, 15, 12. And I'm like, dude, stop. Like, I just need you to switch. This is hurting so much.
Yeah, because my mage right now is really bad on the GM account. So I want it to either be range or mage. And when it's not that, I'm just sitting there like, dude, it's a slog. And I'm still butterflying to not take damage, but it's like, just change, please.
Yeah. I hit this point where it was like, I would sit there and face tank, and then I'm like 40 HP, and it's like, alright, fine, I have to butterfly now. And then hopefully the Sang heals me back a bit.
Yeah. Because I feel like Akka's the room where you'll probably take the most damage because of final phase, and then obviously attacks, whereas every other room... Baba would be the room you take the most damage, but haha, Red X.
Yeah.
Carefree, you take little to no damage, and then Zabak, it's all based on like poison and prayer and how you deal with specials.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I will say, like, one of my favorite things at TOA is high levels of back. It's just, like, so much more fun.
Zabak chatted.
But it sucks how it's unoptimal.
Yeah. There's one thing that I want to say, though, that I felt like would have made Zebek a little bit better, and it's that it's a boss that makes it where you don't want to melee at all. I felt like if they made melee more viable, like the best defense option, that would actually make the room more fun, because now you have to either be kind of like a guardian, either 2 ticks apart with your teammates or same ticked. And I thought that would have definitely made for a pretty cool dynamic room, because okay, waves are coming, or jugs are coming, just swap to your range gear, step back, do that, try to not lose ticks, and then get back into mailing, or even do wave skip when waves are coming in.
Yeah, with melee, that'd be sick.
Yeah, and they could even make that an invocation where it's like they adjust defenses, but also make more specials happen at the same time, so then it's even harder to do melee, but even more rewarding if you get that down.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Make it so, like, waves are twice as long, or, like, he does, like, maybe, like, 2 of the screeches or something weird.
Yeah. I felt like there is still so much that they can do with TOA, whether it's, like, adding these invocations that just kind of flip the room, like, upside down with stat changes or other stuff like that, or maybe even changes to medic where, oh, medic's actually a viable option if you have bad DPS, because if you kill a swarm, it does damage to the boss. Like, those small things to really change up the room and give you alternatives, I think would be good.
Yeah, I love the idea of the invocation system. It feels like they kind of just, like, stopped caring about TOA a month after release, and there wasn't really any changes after that point. I would have loved, like, even, like, a system where, like, the invocations are different every update. They could just have a list of, like 50 invocations, and it just randomly picks 25 of them per week. And it could be, like, any of the 25. Like, this week we don't have any of the speedrun times, but we have, like, these new invocations where it's, like, I don't know, like, Baba has a range attack, so now you can't Red X.
Oh,
or
you like throws rocks at everyone?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Like, they could have these, like, these new invocations or whatever that just, like, cycle into the current set and take out the current ones.
That'd be pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah, I guess the problem with that would be, like, the people who are speedrunning would have to wait, like, 7 weeks until it's like, that's the set, that's what we need, and then they could go for their speedruns, but I feel like
they could do like CM, where it's like there's a challenge mode set for invocations, and then it's just like these are invocations that you have for the week, and then you have your normal choice of invocations.
Right, yeah, maybe something like that. But yeah, I feel like the invocation system could be really cool if it was, like, maybe a little bit more fleshed out, but the stuff we have now is, like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed Team TOA, but it's just that I feel there's still so much they could do with it. I know it's dev time, but at the same time, it's like they could really bring up the skill ceiling or make things more interesting, because all I'm telling you, dude, is if they did this on release where out of nowhere that second warden woke up during P2 instead of it just, like, hitting the floor in P1, that would have been that would have literally been, like, shock value, like when Verzik, like, transformed from P2 to a spider. But then again, that was a little insane when that happened. No one expected that, or the Jad at Zuck, or the healers at Zuck.
Right, yeah.
Because when people saw that, it was like, okay, this content's impossible. No one's beating this.
Yeah, Warden are, like, kind of weird. Like, it just, like, teleports you to, like, this, like, it feels like it's just the separate room. It's, like, really strange.
Yeah. I think the whole plane gets warped is the best way of putting it, because the obelisk is destroyed, and it's like you're in outer space.
Yeah.
So it's like
it felt, like, weird. I was like, what is going on right now? Like, when I was first doing Wardens.
I mean, I can understand it, because we were dealing with godly powers here. Those, like, automatons, they were made by Tumikin, who was a deity, but still, it was a bit weird.
Yeah.
I felt like if they did they could have just made the Wardens fight instead of doing P3. They could have just done it like, have you ever played Dark Souls or watched any Dark Souls?
I've watched a little bit. I've never played.
There's a boss called the Ornstein Schmog, and based on whichever one you kill first, it buffs the other one because it's a
Oh, okay.
1v2.
Mm-hmm.
So if you kill one of them, the other one gets hella buffed, and they could have done the same thing, where you kill one warden and then the other one just gets a bunch of buffs, maybe like higher attack speed,
Yeah.
do some crazy stuff to make it just like a super boss. But
That could
we
be
got what we got
interesting as
now.
well, because like the strat might be to like half kill, and like that
Yeah.
sort of stuff could be kind of
Yeah,
cool.
if they're gonna do like half kill, then at that point you might as well just make it like a P2 thing. But I still think that would have been like a great invocation to have. Insanity 2, just having it two wards fighting you at once, and then you're just trying to kill both of them at the same time.
Yeah. No, there's definitely some cool stuff they could do.
Like I said, it's dev time, but I felt like
Yeah.
it's worth it. I felt like people were super happy with the Cox changes. So if they
Hmm.
made like a huge amount of changes or like added like this whole invocation expansion, I feel like people would be ecstatic. And
Yeah,
at
for
the same
sure.
time, people could still pot the same TOA they've got, but now they have a
Hmm.
whole variety of different invocations they can screw around with, which will really spice it up.
Yeah. I like that was something else I was thinking about, is it's like it'd be really cool if they had just like even more invocations, but this is probably more of a question for you. It's like with the high level community, would they care about like losing accomplishment if suddenly you could do like 800 TOAs?
I feel like people would
Okay.
enjoy that more because we had 770. Now we're never able to do that again. So to have an 800 invocation raid, I think that's just gonna be something for people to do. Even though I know new types just gonna get that shit done.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, 'cause I feel like something like that could be really cool, where it's uh, even if they just released more invocations now, like as long as they're like good, like people would love that, like just being able to have more options,
Yeah,
even if it changes like, well, it doesn't really change like purple rate that much. I feel like because
it's
you already hit
capped.
the cap in
Yeah,
teams, yeah. So it would really just like affect the style, I guess, of the raid that you're doing, or for the people who are able to do 800s, it adds like a new challenge.
yeah. It would give you more variety in your choice as to what kind of raid you'd have if you had more
Hmm.
invocations. But the main thing is I want to have invocations that just don't make the rooms just feel worse or harder.
Yeah,
Because that's the thing. Like medic is not a good solo scaled invocation. It is
yeah.
scaled the same way in teams, but I do feel like the way to alleviate it is just having it do damage to the boss. Maybe have it do
Hmm.
percent damage, so then it's actually super good if you're for whatever reason doing super scaled TOAs. But it's just like it just feels like you're only putting it on if you really need those 15 points, instead of it being like, oh, this is something that could reward you if you know how to play with it.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah. Medic is like such a weird invocation. It's like so free in big teams, and then just like
yeah,
completely unviable and smaller.
yeah,
Yeah, I had an idea for an invocation where it randomly put on one other invocation but doesn't tell you.
dude,
So
that
you're
would be,
like so you're like running without gap on, and
and
then
you
just
get
like
gapped.
someone gets gapped. It's like that's the one. Everyone at gapped, or like you're running with like the smaller jugs at Zabak, and then someone like pops it and it just doesn't save everyone. It's like, oh god, we had small jugs, save it.
Mystery invocation, 50 points. That'd be lit.
Yeah, it doesn't even need to be that high. I feel like because like most of the time you'll probably just get something weird. It probably wouldn't be able to pick like the time invocations. I feel
Yeah.
like, but like pick like anything else would be really funny. I want like more chaos in the invocations. I feel like the ones that add just like chaos are the best ones. Like Gap is hilarious in big teams. Um, the back jugs can be hilarious in big teams sometimes.
Like, this is up.
Yeah,
You need
yeah.
that,
The
baby.
panic. Yeah, I love like that kind of stuff. I think it's fun when there's just that chaos element introduced into the raids.
Yeah, because it's like coordinated teams will always have a way of like solving it unless it's like absolute chaos. Then it's just like you're probably gonna wipe.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
And
I agree in that sense. Did we really talk much about Tob yet?
I don't think we did too much. I was never like really that big into Tob. Like I've done a couple hundred KC, but As far as like speedruns are concerned, I've never really been that into it. I've watched speedruns of it though. I think it's really interesting. But
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as like the top changes and like stuff like that they could even introduce, I feel like there's not much I would have to say on it.
That was just special for me because that's when I kind of got over performance anxiety and I finally picked up speedrunning.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
obviously,
that's true.
I love CM more. That's for sure. I will always love Chambers
Mhm.
and CM more. But Todd was kind of what gave me that the jump start into wanting to get into high level stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it was around Tob release when I was kind of getting into like speedrunning stuff as well in old school. Because yeah, I think the Scythe was out when I was doing like chamber speedruns, so that would have been around the time that Tob had come out.
Dude, I still remember using that bad boy at CMs. I was like thinking to myself, oh, this shit's gonna slap at CMs.
You remember when we went from the upgrade progression for like us old CMers? It was tentacle whip, scythe. Like that was the jump that we had. It was literally just I guess some of us would use Hosta because like you could use it at Vasa and Olm and it like barely mattered. But like the upgrade progression from like tentacle whip to scythe is like absurd. Like I can't believe that was the upgrade we got.
There was also Rapier too.
Oh yeah, well Rapier came out with Tob, so we didn't really use it that much, I guess.
Weren't people
Until
using it for
unless you
Vanguards,
can
I
afford
think?
it.
Because I think I remember people using it for Bangs for a bit.
Oh yeah, maybe we did. At least in solo you would have to, because Scythe could just one hit them 33%.
Yep.
So you'd have to bring something. I guess you'd use it for like Vasa crystals. So yeah, we probably did have Rapier for at least some stuff. Speaking of chambers, by the way, I have something really funny I want to show you that I remembered from a long time ago.
All right, let's see.
So yeah, I still have a little bit of ear damage from this moment. But do you remember this?
I'm scared.
I'm posting it on Discord. You remember this, right?
What is it? Oh,
you remember this,
yes,
right?
I remember this. This is
now.
How could I forget?
Now here I found the screenshot you posted, and do you see the gentleman in the bottom middle of that in full graceful with a tome of fire and a dust staff?
Wait, oh, you sent a second image?
Yeah, the second one. Do you see the little creature in the bottom middle?
Yep.
That's the UIM, dude. I just thought
God.
that was funny when I was like, I'm pretty sure I had the UIM back like when we were raiding, and I wanted to like look, and I was looking through a bunch of old screenshots. And I saw your the Olmlet picture. I was like, oh my god, the UIM was in that raid. That's hilarious.
That is crazy. I didn't even think of that yet. So for you guys who don't know, this was the one pet I was hard grinding for at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I did take a couple of breaks. Like I took a break from the Inferno Cape, but eventually we got Max, got Inferno Cape, got that stuff done. Last grind we had was the Olmlet. So good friend Shen here was like, let's pot some 2+3s. And then out of nowhere, I got the pet, and I'm pretty sure I screamed louder than I've ever screamed in my entire life. And to this day, I'm still paying his medical bills.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I get that bi-monthly. It's sick.
Actually, wait, I'm not sure if me getting Awakened bosses done was me screaming louder, but that's just because I had noise suppression
maybe.
on. But I fucking screamed pretty loud when I killed Leviathan.
Oh, yeah, I believe it. That Awakened boss looks like absolutely wild to kill. I'm looking forward to it, though. I haven't, I want to get my Torva plate body on the UIM before I go for the Blood Torva, because I don't want to be the guy with, like, Blood Torva helm, Blood Torva legs, bandage chest plate. So I'm waiting until I finish the set. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, so let's talk about, let's see. Colosseum got introduced as well as some of the rewards. So you want to talk about that for a bit?
Colosseum is the content that I'm the most excited for, with no rewards that I'm going to be able to keep on the UIM.
Oh no!
But it's hopefully the regular drops are sick, and like maybe the cape is like storable somehow. But it's just like I can't justify having the cape permanently be in inventory space when I have like the assembler in my POH that I can just grab anytime.
So if you can do that like in assembler and just like put it away, would that be good then?
Yeah, I don't think anything with charges is storable in the POH. I think that's just like a programming issue. So
Ah,
because the upgraded version is going to have like some kind of charges, it might not be storable. But who knows?
yeah.
Maybe we find out later that
I think
it
they
is.
might bin it. I don't remember what they said because they did like an updated blog post and were explaining some things, and I think they said
Okay.
something like they might bin it. But their reasoning was because they wanted to make the essence have like more value, so attaching
Mhm.
it to charging an item that's BIS would
Yeah,
give it
that's fair.
artificial value.
Yeah, I was thinking the way that they could make it like permanently have value. You know how it's about like increasing the minimum hit of like fire spells?
Yeah.
Thralls hit 1 to 3, not
Oh
0 to
no.
3.
Oh no.
How disgusting is that?
That is disgusting. I don't even want to know what the DPS on that is. That's pretty bad. There was one item that snuck past when they first released the blog, and they quickly
Mhm.
deleted it. And there was an item where two-handed melee weapons would have a min hit. So it would be an amulet.
Oh
Yeah,
god.
and it would have been a buff to Scythe pretty much. I don't know if it'd be...
That's crazy.
Yeah, it would have been insane. But they instantly scrapped it after it
Mhm.
leaked on the blog, and then someone asked about it on Reddit, and they were like, yeah, this was something we were talking about. We couldn't think of any way to introduce it without it being OP on Scythe. And
Yeah.
do you think that the Scythe needs more love, and having an amulet like that would have been good? Or no, you don't think that we should have an amulet that gives min hits to it? Or min hits to 2H melee weapons?
Yeah, the weird thing, I was kind of thinking about this, but like, I feel like the Scythe is in this really weird spot where when I was like doing the combat achievements, I think the most important item to have is the Scythe. I think that's actually the single best item you can have for going for like the combat achievements.
Yeah.
Which like, I feel like that's kind of like its niche, is like how it's so good at like Tob and Nightmare and all these like weird places. But it just kind of turns into this problem where it's like, it just doesn't feel like the other mega rares because you don't use it like everywhere you melee. Like everywhere you range, you're like, okay, T-bow. Everywhere you can use mage, it's like, alright, I'm in the shadow. But we just have so many different melee weapons, and they all have like different styles. Like you can't stab with the scythe. There's just no stab
That
option.
is true. I didn't think of
So,
that. The 3 styles.
Yeah, it's like there's just like so many different melee weapons. But like for magic, it's like accurate, long range. For range, it's rapid, and you never click the other ones. So it's just like because of this, it feels like the melee mega rare is just always going to have issues where it's not viable everywhere. Where T-bow and Shadow can just be used on every boss. But at least as far as like like having the scythe, it's like at least for an Iron Man, it's like probably the most important thing you can get for combat achievements, just because it enables you to do like so many of them. So I feel like it has like a nice niche. I could see some kind of buff though coming into play. I don't know like what you would have to do.
I think the main concerns people were having was just when the Shadow got introduced, and that ends up actually being more DPS at the one boss that it should be best at, which was Verzik P2. The Shadow being more like slightly more DPS, and people were coping and saying the calculations are wrong, but in actuality it actually was better. On top of the fact that you can do a deep proc where you sit really far back, send a Shadow, and then do like another
hit. That's interesting.
Which is important if you're trying to go for no reds, so the red skip.
Right, yeah. Get the extra hit in. That's really cool.
Yeah, so I understand them wanting it to be a bit stronger. Just because it should feel good at the piece of content it comes from.
I'll also say, I think the problem, another problem with Melee is just how good the Fang is.
Yeah.
Especially because they just happen to put a slash option on it. I really feel like the Fang should just be purely a stab weapon. Because it just, like, it runs into so many issues with just, like, it's too good at being accurate, even when you're using a style that it's, like, supposed to be bad on.
Because the new Bellator ring, too, is basically double accuracy when you're wearing it.
And then didn't they also announce there's, like, a shield that's...
Slash Defender is coming out, yeah.
Come on. Like... I don't know. I feel like they just need to do something with the Fang. Like, maybe remove its effect when it's on Slash. It only, like, exists on Stab, or,
if
like...
they did that, I felt like it would make it where Blade of Silver has a bit of use again at places like
Yeah.
Bob. Because right now it's like, why use a Silver? You got the Fang on Slash. It does exactly the same thing and better.
And it's cheaper and it's easier to get hours wise if you're like an iron. It's like it's so weird how the Fang has just kind of shifted everything. Like it's to the point where it's like if you're gonna keep like one of each weapon, like if you could pick any weapon for each style. So your magic weapon is Shadow. I feel like that's just obvious. Your range weapon, that's a little more complicated. It's probably either Bofa or T-Bow. Like there's a little bit of reason why you would pick Bofa. There's a little bit of reason why you would pick
it's all
T-Bow.
situational based on stats of the enemy.
Yeah, but for melee you just pick Fang. Like if you're gonna pick one weapon. There's like no way you would pick Scythe because like what if I want to do like a Necreal Slayer task or like I don't know, you're fighting an enemy that's 1x1 or 2x2 and Scythe is just bad. True. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to do next with the Scythe. But then like Fang just works for everything. It's like Nightmare, sure. Like it's fine there.
Nightmare when that's supposed to be a crush boss, and she's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's like it's like second best in I think it's like about as good as Bludgeon at Nightmare, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
It's like it may have been Hossa that it's about as good as, but it's like it's comparable to like the third or fourth best item and it's like not it's like the boss it's not supposed to be good at. It's like the second best item for Tob behind the Scythe, and like that's the place that Scythe is supposed to shine. And it even outperforms it in a couple spots there. Yeah. So it really just feels like it's like too good of a jack of all trades for like what it's supposed to be.
It's just too common, because if it's gonna be like that jack of all trades,
that's also true.
That's just like solid everywhere, but not super overpowering. It's too common because look at the Bofa, right? Bofa's 100 mil. It is somewhat common, but you still have to grind for it, right? And there's incentive to do CG Rush in an Iron Man and get the Bofa. Pretty good weapon if you don't have a T-Bow. Yeah. It's pretty good. The Fang on the other hand,
is huge.
Super common, like super common. And it's like 30 mil or less than 30 mil right now.
It's so good.
Yeah, like I got that item hella early on the GM from Scratch account once I was in. I think we're in like month 2.5 was when I picked it up. Sold my rapier just to buy it because I was using rapier just to do a bit of Slayer outside of the wilderness, and then deep worldly I didn't want to bring my mace. So after that was done, sold that shit. Now I have my Fang to do the DT2 bosses, and also to do TOA and other stuff.
The slash weak DT2 bosses with your Fang, yes, of course.
That's what I'm saying. It's just it would probably also help to have more middle ground slash weapons.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't think the Fang should be the solution to that. I think the Fang should not be the solution to that. We just need more items. So that's just my 2 cents on it. Have it be good for stat. Completely fine with that. They just need to get rid of the slash option and maybe introduce another slash weapon. Yeah,
something in like the middle. It is kind of weird though, like with like the way that they have to balance bosses now. I can't even begin to comprehend how you would balance, because it's like, all right, we don't want the Shadow to just shred this thing. It's like, all right, we'll give it high magic. All right, well now the T-Bow is shredding this thing. All right, we'll give it high defense. We don't want the T-Bow to be good there either. It's like, okay, great. Well now it's Fang, because that's like the only thing that hits through high defense.
Well, they can also just do arbitrary things like damage caps and stuff like that, but that never feels good. That always feels weird. It's kind of like trying to mage Tecton and you only hit like 10% of your damage. It's like, huh?
There's got to be an account out there that like it's optimal for them to mage Tecton, because like their best in slot mage weapon is like the Shadow that they spooned, and their best melee weapon is like Rune Warhammer. And they're like, it's actually better for me to Shadow Tecton.
Yeah, but you probably have some like hella pistol stats for that. Jesus.
Who knows? I mean,
yeah, because
I'm just saying, there's got to be someone out there.
You can easily get a D-Mace.
You could do Heroes Quest.
I mean, I was doing Rune Mace Calvarion for a bit, but
oh my god.
I looked at the DPS a little bit ago, and I was like sitting there thinking to myself, I did Calvarion with this DPS? What the fuck was I smoking? And it was all because my Twitch chat was like, I asked them, do I work on my attack? So then I do Calvarion with like a granite hammer, or do I just go in with Rune Mace?
You just
Everyone
go.
voted Rune Mace, and then we did that for a bit, and that ended up actually being an arc on the GM account where I was just spamming Calvarion.
That's so funny.
It actually is viable. It's just long because my kills per hour, somewhere around like 9 to 10, like per hour.
Oh, that's tough.
It's awful.
Yeah.
But it ended up working out big time for me.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, I guess because you're using salve. Did you have the salve at that point?
That was the normal salve, not even an east, because I didn't have 46.
My
So
God.
it's a normal salve.
I guess, like, yeah, because of the bonus, it's like, you do want to be killing, like, undead if you're doing melee training that early. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense. I get it.
Not him.
That just sounds horrible.
Not him. Definitely not Calvarion, but
Yeah, for sure.
we did it for the chat.
For the content, yeah.
Yeah. We did
It has to be done.
Did a bit of a sidetrack, but let's get back on topic regarding the Colosseum. So,
True. Yeah, true.
Let's talk a bit about the pitched mechanics. So it's kind of like a roguelike, where I don't think they mentioned anything about you getting buffs anymore. I think they're just strictly doing debuffs. So as you progress through it, there's going to be these random debuffs that I think you might be able to choose from to make it much harder. And as you do more and more waves, it's just going to add more and more debuffs.
Yeah, something I like from, like, roguelike is I like buff, like, obviously more than debuffs. Yeah. I think it could be cool if, like, they have buffs, but if you take one, it forces, like, a random debuff. Ooh. And it's, like, it adds that, like, randomness that I think makes this kind of stuff interesting. Because, like, you don't want it to just be, okay, you pick this one on the first wave, this one on the second wave, this one on the third wave, this one on the fourth. There like really does need to be like some sort of element of randomness.
Yeah, listen to this. I have an idea, okay?
Okay.
Gives you a choice of a buff, applies 2 debuffs. Or you can sit out and applies 1 debuff. So if you have bad buffs on your like kind of loot table or your buff wheel, you can skip out on it. And then that way you're not getting punished as hard because you get the one that's just something like every hit gives you a chance of like X damage compared to like maybe the best buff would be something like every hit you do gives a chance of a double hit.
Right, yeah.
Because there is so many opportunities for crazy buffs that they could do just from looking at all the leagues or just doing them. They can go all out. They can go all out with the buffs.
Yeah, there's so much cool stuff they could do.
So honestly, I'm hoping they do something like buffs and debuffs, and then just getting a buff means more debuffs. But I understand if they don't because it's more dev work. But it would definitely add more mastery and more like decision making if they did something like that, and I would really enjoy that because that's the fun part about roguelikes is you roll like
exactly.
Either A, you get some bad rolls and you make do with it, or B, you get some god rolls and you just go to town early on.
Yeah,
and
go for your PV.
You go
exactly.
For the PV. That's what I like saying. Because there's a lot of at least the one that I play was Nuclear Throne, which has like a loop system that makes stuff have more HP and there's more enemies spawning and stuff like that. You could do something like that where you can get to crazy buffs to really last super long, but it's just gonna get harder and harder.
Yeah. I also don't know like how long they're expecting runs of this to take because I know they said it's supposed to be like fast paced. I don't know if that means it's going to be like Inferno length, which for an average player is over an hour to 2 hours, but like the top level is like half of that. Whereas this could be like, is it going to be like 15 minutes for the record holders and then like 30 to an hour for the normal player? Like I'm really curious to see like what kind of time frame they give, because I feel like if it's really short you don't really get as much time to like get a feel for like the build or anything, because if it's only gonna be like a 15-minute challenge you're not really going to be in there for very long, I feel like. Whereas if it's like a half hour to an hour you get like more time with that particular build. So I'm really curious to see like kind of the scale of the time that you're supposed to spend in there.
I think it's probably somewhere similar like Fight Caves where new players probably get like, assuming you got like good stats and gear, probably somewhere like 40-50 minutes. And then like experienced players are getting like low 20s, sub 20s.
Yeah, that probably sounds about right.
Because that's it's an endurance challenge, but it's not too long like Inferno, which requires much more concentration.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that'd be the middle ground they pick.
Mhm.
But yeah, honestly, I'm really looking forward to it. I feel like that's gonna be the piece of content I enjoy the most, depending on how they go about the buffs and debuffs. So
Yeah, I'm really excited for it too.
fingers crossed, and I'm also crossing my fingers. Maybe they do something for your Ultimate Ironman, so it's just not a piece of content you have to avoid.
Yeah, hopefully. It's not that big a deal. Like even if just like one or two things are useful, it's definitely something to go for.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit worried about the cape because it's like, oh, I really want to have this cool new best in slot cape, but then there's always that fear of like,
Can't put
oh
it in your
god,
house.
am I holding on to this item forever once I get it?
Or
It
unless
goes right
it's
next to
easy
my
get
seed
back.
box.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, maybe it's like not bad to get back. That's something I haven't thought about.
Yeah, because you don't need an assembler for it, right? So if you don't need an assembler and it's just like maybe it's you just gotta do a run to get it back or something.
True.
It's not
Yeah.
too long. You can just boom, 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Unless,
Well,
unless it's like Nightmare where you need to like do all this crazy ass pre-potting just to get 1 KC, but I doubt it.
well, that was just for the specific speedrun task,
Yeah,
which
I
was
doubt
like,
it. I doubt it.
yeah. Man, if only we had the infinite assemblers again. That was a nice couple hours. Could be really helpful for this cape.
All right, so let us talk about sailing because they had mentioned sailing. How long has it been now? Like it's been a couple months. So, do you have any hopes or any fears of sailing?
Sailing, like, it seems really interesting, like, adding a new skill. I'm not like a purist in the sense where, like, I care about if they're adding, like, something new to the game. Like, I feel like it's interesting as long as the content's interesting.
Yeah.
But, like, I guess kind of, like, my fear with it is, like, I feel like a lot of people are gonna, like, overreact to, like, oh my god, they're, like, putting this new stuff in the game. I don't like this and like that sort of stuff. And I hope they don't like lose that sort of player base, the people who like overly care about how like old school is old school and whatnot. Because I think it's important to like keep like as many people as we can happy.
Yeah, there's like there's an identity to old school, and you don't want to like just absolutely change it and do something like combat.
Yeah,
system.
exactly. Yeah, if you know training the skill is interesting, then I'm super excited. If training the skill sucks, then oh, this is awful. But I feel like there's no way that they don't make it interesting with a new skill. Like it has to be like good.
I'm hoping that there's a lot of different ways of training it, and they're all like decent in their own way. Maybe there's the skiller approach, where you're just focusing on like building your craft and doing other stuff, and then there's the adventure approach where you can go on all these missions, or maybe even that ocean raid thing that they talked about. So there'll be like various ways of training it, and on top of that, on top of trading sailing, there's also alternative ways to train your mining and your fishing, which they've also pitched. So it might be super good if you're like an early game account because now you have all these different ways to build an account for sailing. But as a max player, there might not be as much incentive because that's the one nice thing about playing a new account. I've realized Guardians of the Rift is nice, Temperas is nice.
Yeah, oh my god.
All these things are actually really good. It's just, as a main account, I'm not too big in pet hunting. It's like, I don't want to do this. I'd rather do something else. So
yeah, it's weird, like, we have this joke where it's like, what's the most optimal way to max an old school account? It's like, make your account next week. Because it's like, just, there's going to be some update that comes out, and it's like, it's better to max now. And then there's going to be some update that comes out, and it's better now. And it is, that like, is how it is going to be. Because obviously they're going to release stuff, and it has to be good. Otherwise, no one's going to do it.
Yeah, there has to be reasons to do it. Either it's like, it's a nicer way of trading, it might be a bit slower, or it's like the max up way of doing Alexa Poker.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it is interesting, like, thinking, oh, you know, maybe I won't make my account yet or something like that, but, like, you know, jumping in at any point is obviously good.
Yeah. So, I have some really big hopes for it. I know some people are still kind of sketched out about it, but I'm also hoping that they actually do add some new stuff to it, like new gear, new potions, and I'm talking about, like, new potions are actually good for, there's opportunities for them to add new potions with like different resources coming in. So
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it might not be time for an overload just yet, but there's always room to add some new stuff, new gear, new potions, new resources, all that stuff.
Yeah, don't talk about overloads right now. I just got my imbued heart, and I'm just killing necks and watching my super combats get decimated by that boss.
Ah, jeez. They're gonna add overloads next week, and you're gonna have to go grind that.
Yeah, the overloads grind begins.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see with what happens with sailing. All right, so
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I think it'll be fun, and like no matter what, I think there will be like some way to train it for everyone, and that's what I'm hopeful for.
Frost.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so I got one last thing I'm gonna ask you, and that's gonna be, what would you like to see regarding the future in old school RuneScape?
What would I like to see regarding the future of old school? I really like how they've been adding like very high end PvM challenges, and I also really like how they've been adding like mid level content because I feel like
I think it's important, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's important to have like ways to link yourself into the higher end of the game because TOA is great for like learning how to do a raid, like how you would go about doing this, and then hopefully those people are then like, okay, I'm gonna try Chambers if I'm able to do TOA, and they'll struggle, and then they'll figure it out, and then eventually they'll be able to complete Chambers, and then it's like, okay, I feel like I've improved enough at the game that maybe now it's time to go for the Infernal Cape, and then eventually, like, maybe Blood Torva's on the line. Like, it's really cool seeing these, like, high-end challenges, whether it's, like, the Grandmaster tasks now applying to, like, the lower tiers, so you can challenge yourself. Maybe I want to go for the Gauntlet speedrun, I'm good at the Gauntlet, instead of going for, like, a couple of the Master tasks. So, like, it's cool having these, like, links for, like, these lower middle level players to get into this end game content and like be able to like go for these goals. So hopefully we see more like of these like links into the higher end of content, but also continue to see these high level content releases because it's cool to see like what the player base is able to come up with to beat these challenges. I know Blood Torva super fun to watch. Yeah. Blood Tour was like so fun to watch on release, seeing all the strategies people were coming up with. The TOA race to seeing people do like high level TOAs, that was really fun to watch. It's cool like seeing people push themselves in the game. So I love seeing the content come out that lets people like express themselves like that. But we also have to remember that at the end of the day, we like there's lower level players, and like for them at least, all this new content's been really good, I hope, between like the star mining and forestry and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it's important to have stuff that kind of fills the gaps between people who are starting to get into the game and then the people that are in the mid game, and then you have the late game and then the end game, right? There's like 4 tiers to it because you got the people that just came in, the people that have already sunk in like a couple of months, the people who can do everything in the game, or they're starting to get everywhere, but they still need to maybe get like max gear, max stats, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the people who've done it all, and now they're just going for clogs and pets, and maybe a third age pickaxe, or just some goal that isn't really important, but they're choosing to do it anyway. I think it's important to make sure that there's something for everyone, because if it's like a huge jump from like mid to like late game, it's pretty tough to keep player retention because no one wants to say
Exactly.
I understand you can't just baby people. I understand that, and this is not a game that I want to be like babyfied, where it's just you just wake up the next day and you're just like max. That's even if that's what you can kind of do with Spacebar Nightmare Zone. Just have something holding down spacebar like this, and then just have your account with tanky gear and Nightmare Zone, and then you can just sit there for as long as your account will survive.
Spacebar Duke was the thing as well.
Yeah, so it's I do just think that having some more gear, having some more activities for mid game players is always going to be beneficial, because then that's more people that are going to be playing, and then eventually once we have more end game players, because we did a good job of keeping those mid game players entertained, and they're now in the late game, then we can have more late game stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's at least my philosophy on it. I don't think we should always cater to endgame players. I think it's always nice to have endgame stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'm an endgame player, and that's what's going to keep me entertained. But
Yeah.
I understand what's important, and that's getting more players, because that's going to be the next generation.
That's why I like Leviathan. I think was perfect for this because it's great for like every level of player. Like the mid game players can like do the quest and beat the boss. Higher level players can farm the boss. End game players can like do the like big grinds and like awakened version and that sort of stuff. And then like the super end game players are doing that like no stun thing, doing that like awakened and stuff like that. So there's like challenges for every level. And I really wish like more content would have like challenges at like every level that people are able to get into, and like even maybe just set for themselves like self-imposed challenges.
Yeah, because most of the self-imposed challenges are typically just like such as like no pillar, solo top,
Right, yeah.
the awakened raid and stuff like that. It's always fun to see people do that, and then people try it themselves.
Exactly, yeah. It's cool like setting those goals that like feel like they're out of reach and then like working toward them, even if like you're gonna die a bunch of times going for it. Definitely feels like it's doable a lot of the time.
As long as you're lured from a death, because that's a frustration part. If you die and you feel like you're not getting anything out of a death,
fair.
Then it's not good. But if you feel that you're actually learning from it, then that's good.
Yeah, my first awakened Vardorvis, I same ticked in 91-94. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
it was hilarious.
I've been trying to go for the second KC last couple of days, and every time I'm really close, I die. I'm like, fuck, man. It was going to be it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, well, is there anything else that you want to say here, Mr. Shen, before we call it a wrap?
I was going to say, follow Sido on Twitch. It's HiImSido, and check out the YouTube channel as well. You'll see that linked. Well, actually, this is going on YouTube, so that'll be right there. Click on that sub button.
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell them about notifications on? Do you do that?
Nah, I don't even bother.
You guys should hit the bell, too. Every time one of these uploads come out, you'll get to see it. I know you post, like, you've done other podcasts as well, like, with, like, other PvMers. And you've also done a bunch of, like, cool challenges, so. When's the GM series coming out?
I will be working on the script tomorrow, because right after I'm done this, I'm going to go eat some food, and I'm going to go stream some CG, because we're going to do Song of the Elves tonight, baby. But,
that's hype.
I've been working on the script, and I think I am on page number, I think on page 8 or page 9. So it is coming together, so we'll get that video, I don't want to say soon, because once the script is done, the next step is actually, getting the cool edits, storyboarding, and all that, because this is going to be my biggest production I've ever done, where I'm putting in as much time into it. My biggest fear is pacing, so I have to review that with friends to see, like, is this pacing good? Am I cutting out too much? So I'm definitely going to take my time with it, because I want this to be as good as it can be.
I'm excited, personally. I'm looking forward to it.
I am, too. So I'll make sure to also plug your stuff in the description as well. You got a Twitter, you got a Twitch, you got a YouTube.
I do. I post here and there.
Yeah, so if you're interested in some RuneScape stuff or into some Pokemon stuff, even though I know this is a RuneScape channel, definitely check out my channel. True. All right, cool, dude.
And GDQ is coming up in January. Got to run there. So if you enjoy GDQ, I'll be on there. So should be fun. Hopefully it does not train wreck. Always a little bit nervous with the marathons, but we'll see. Feeling good this time.
But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this installment of PvMer Spotlight. Thank you again, Mr. Shen, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, but until next time, guys, I bid you farewell.